was kind of getting it on with that music. That was great.
I know. I was kind of jamming
Right?
out to that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today, and happy Black History Month. We are on to an all-new episode of Vaco's LinkedIn Live series, Career Confidential. I'm Scott Gordon, Senior VP of Global Delivery at Vaco, and I'm joined today by a lady who was named one of Nashville Business Journal's 40 under 40, and has had an incredibly fantastic year helping her clients here in the Nashville area. Please welcome to the show Managing Director Lindsey Morgan.
Hello.
Lindsey, yeah, it's so good to have you. This Career Confidential is geared towards helping people who are searching for that perfect job. Today, we hope to share some insights as to what companies are looking for and how you as a candidate can stand out. And as always, this is a wide open forum. I would love to hear. There's a chat section there, so drop your comments or questions in there, and I'll try to get to them between me and Lindsey today. But again, thanks everybody for joining Career Confidential. So Lindsey, would you tell us about yourself? How long have you been with Vaco? Give us the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with Vaco almost 7 years now, which is crazy. It's flown by. It's been a lot of fun. I work on our technology consulting team, so help a lot of clients around Middle Tennessee when it comes to hiring or outsourced delivery-based projects. Love my job here, love my team, and love you, Scott Gordon. So excited to be here with you.
Thank you. So I've got a bunch of questions for you today, and hopefully, like I said, some people will drop in some comments and questions, and I'll try to get to those as soon as I can. So, Lindsey, can you tell me what types of roles you are filling for your clients here in Nashville? And you said that you've done some offshore work as well. Are you working specifically with Nashville-based clients?
Yeah, so my role is really focused within Nashville. I mean, I know our world is remote now, but I am still focused heavily on working with clients around Middle Tennessee. However, we do support a lot of the folks that are here in Nashville with our offshore office that's in India, which has been a great experience. You asked what type of roles we're filling right now, and I think the better question is what type of roles aren't we filling right now? Again, I'm focused all on technology. So it's anything from software development to the functional side of things, project managers, product managers, a ton within infrastructure right now. We're doing a lot in the cloud. So really the full gamut of anything tech related.
Have you seen anything, and this is just because you seem to be in the throes of this every day, has the technology changed in the last 6 months? And I know that you mentioned infrastructure, but 2 years ago, infrastructure was there, but we seem to be really developer heavy. And I heard you mention infrastructure. What's changed in your market there in Nashville from a technical perspective? Are there new languages, new platforms, new trends or directions that you see clients going? Number one, because I know you work with both clients and candidates, the trend that you're seeing from clients, but also are you hearing anything new and exciting from candidates as far as trending?
Yeah, I would say from a client standpoint, Nashville's always been a heavy Microsoft town, and we still have that. It's just not we're seeing a lot more people going open source. We see a lot more Python from an engineering standpoint, and it seems like that's kind of what the engineers, the developers themselves are wanting to do. New technology is all the craze, right? So everybody wants to be able to get into an environment where they can learn, they can grow. And that's how a lot of companies are attracting new talent right now.
Sure.
So even if you are within the Microsoft stack, adding a new technology such as Blazor or something along those lines, people are really attracted to that type of environment.
What's the most difficult to fill position? What position have you had open more in the last 12 months that number one, it's been so difficult to find the right candidate, but also difficult to place that candidate? Is it and I'm talking on both sides of the fence, from a candidate side as well as a client side, but what's the most difficult thing?
I would say that from a client perspective, the hardest roles to fill, I would still say they're within engineering. When I say engineering, software engineering.
Yeah.
So we had a huge just Python push within the last few years, I would say. And there's definitely talented candidates out there with that skill set. I think what's been challenging about filling those roles are, one, keeping up with the salaries for those types of candidates, and also allowing remote work.
So
So
you're
those are,
talking about, sorry for interrupting, you're
yeah,
talking about the client being able to be okay with the
secure.
salaries being requested.
Yep.
So you're
Yep. And
seeing
just keeping up with
salaries,
the market.
yeah, you're seeing salaries increase right now for those particular skills. How do you have that? What kind of conversation do you have with a client that doesn't see that what I've always said is the thinness of the market or the lack of available talent? What are you telling your clients about that? Because some clients just they don't they're some companies may not see that, or um, they expect rates to be where they were pre-pandemic.
Yeah. So one thing that I've tried to do is educate with data, if you will.
Sure,
So,
I love that. Yeah,
it's not necessarily that we're competing with that my local clients are just competing with the other companies in Nashville anymore.
yeah,
We're competing with companies across the US, and we're competing with salaries across the US. And some of these newer technologies that folks are working with, a lot of that talent is coming from West Coast or the Northeast, and those salaries have always been higher than what Nashville's offering.
sure.
And so I think that just by, Vaca works with thousands of companies across the US, and we
Yeah,
have all this information in our system as to what companies are paying, what skill sets they're hiring for. And so I like to take a lot of that data and just show them. In addition to showing what other companies are paying, I really like to take candidates and show them to my clients, actual people, and say, hey, this guy was making, or this gal was making this much last year, and their salary, we just placed them for this with, ABC company over here. And so I think just having that data, being able to show and share kind of what the market's commanding, has really been helpful.
and you get to see that kind of data on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always said that I think people like you know kind of the best places to work, the not so best places to work, what rates are good, where rates are poor. I mean, I think that I think that the people listening now, I hope that they realize that someone like you has pretty much your finger on the pulse of the market as far as and the ancillary things. What are the cool companies to work for? Where can I take my dog to work on Friday? What kind of perks do I get? That sort of stuff. So I thanks for bringing that to the table.
Yeah.
When you're showing this data to your clients, are they do they receive it well, or do they just go, no, I'll just keep looking? Or and I want to talk just specifically for a minute about how difficult it is to find. We talked about how difficult it is to find that type of talent, and talk about rates and everything. How difficult is it to hire if you are a client right now? And what practices do you see your best clients doing to be able to secure that talent in a just-in-time fashion versus those clients that drag their feet and suffer? What's the difference?
Well, I think it goes back to keeping up with the market. And there's a few things that I'm telling folks right now. And the folks who are able to hire and secure the best talent, one, are offering market salaries. And when I say market salaries, that's not what you guys were paying. That's not what companies were paying last year. It's
Right.
changed drastically. They're also offering remote work. That is a big deal for engineers right now,
Sure.
especially.
It kind of
Um,
always has been for
it's always
IT, but now it's crazy.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And the other piece, which I think is just as important as the two that I just mentioned, is speed. We have, what I will say is, again, I've been at Vega for 7 years, and I've seen the market change. It's gone in crazy waves over that period of time.
Sure.
Where we used to see, consulting was the fastest way to onboard a candidate. We could get them in there in a week, whatever the
Yep.
case may be. I am seeing companies right now take a candidate through the entire interview, from submittal to interview to offer, within about 5 business days. And if you're not able to keep up with that timeline, you're really losing out.
Right.
And it's tough out there for companies. But I will say that I've never felt closer with the companies that I'm working with than I have now, just because we have to be in such lockstep about the candidates who are on the market, what they're looking for. They're really trusting in me to provide this information over to them. And then I'm really holding them accountable and they're to kind of getting them through the process. And it has been, again, just such a shift in the way that hiring has been done over the last year and a half due to the market. But it's really amazing to see. And it's pretty crazy.
So if I'm so you're talking to developers all day, and I know that your recruiters are talking to developers all day. How many, talk to me about competing offers, talk to me about counter offers and all of that. Our clients, and I'll shut up and let you just kind of go with that, but talk to me about that for a minute.
Yeah. Every candidate has multiple offers on the table. I have not worked with a single candidate probably realistically in the last 8 months where they've only had one offer on the table. Yeah. And that can mean that they have competing offers from, several companies. Again, I go back to say that we're not competing with companies in our backyard anymore. We're competing with the US, right? Sure. So that could be with competing companies, or that could be them getting a counteroffer from their current company, which we're seeing more now than ever.
How well do counteroffers work? I mean, do you think that and I've got friends that are developers, and I know that they've kind of played both sides of the fence. Do you see that happening now where someone really wants to stay at their company, they just want more money, but they just are not clear about how to, and that's something that we can help with as far as like negotiating a raise or something like that. But how much of that messing around do you see?
We've seen that a lot. Well, I won't say a lot. We've seen that a little bit, I would say, over the past few months, a ton of just people trying to leverage other job opportunities for counter offers. And that's just honestly something that is out of our control, right? We're only privy to what they share with us as far as, with their motivators for looking and things like that. Yeah. But it's working. I will say that it's working. But my question typically when somebody does take a counter offer is, why did it take your company, that long to give you that type of pay raise?
Sure. Why didn't they do it a long time ago when you needed it, or that sort of thing? I think it is hard. It's hard to go in and ask for that raise, especially now, or it may be it may be easier. I'm just not sure. I'm looking at, looking to you for that. And I think that everybody, those competing offers, and I know it just flashed up on the screen, there are a lot of competing offers now. So let's talk about that for just a second, not just the counter offer, but the competing offer. So that 5 days when looking for a job now in this market is forever. 5 days is so long. How often are your candidates having competing offers in those 5 days? And how receptive are your clients to say, okay, well, Jim, we offered Jim 100, but Jim just got a counter offer 110. And are they? Is it like the housing market where people are you know what I'm saying, as far as like auctioning off their skill sets and that sort of thing? Do you see counters to those counters?
Yeah, that's funny that you compared it to that, because that's exactly what I'm comparing our tech market to right now, is the housing market in Nashville, probably throughout the U.S. But yeah, there's a ton of competing offers, and it's a lot of, negotiating right now. And, that's one thing that I don't think candidates are aware of when working with recruiting firms, is that we help you through that. I think it's really hard to negotiate on your own behalf. But I think that, folks don't realize that we're kind of going to bat for you in that, and educating our clients on, well, she's got this offer over here and she's got this offer over here. Yours is coming in about 15K short, or yours is right on the mark, but they just gave, unlimited PTO and some stock in the company. So it is a lot of, people are pulling out whatever they can at this point to secure the right talent. But again, I think a lot of that, if I'm talking from a company standpoint, if you're moving people through the process quickly, those competing offers for the talent that you're trying to secure, you're not going to have as many, because there are still companies that are dragging their feet. And if you're dragging your feet in a market like right now, you are not going to get the talent that you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Can the same be said for, or is it just the opposite for a candidate? Can a candidate drag their feet?
And
yes
and no.
Let's define what feet dragging
Sure.
is. What tell me, you and I know this because we're in this every day, but I want you to define what is feet dragging and what's too long to wait.
Yeah. I would say that, if you get an offer from a company and you have interviews that are coming up, obviously you want to see those through, or maybe you don't. But if you do want to see those through, I would try to make those interviews or schedule those as close to the others as you possibly can, so you can make a quick decision. So nobody expects you to make a decision, immediately, unless you're all in, which, hey, that's great.
Right.
But I would say within 48 hours, you need to be responding back on that offer. If you start dragging it out to a week or more, I think the company starts getting a little hesitant, but they start looking at backup options because more than likely.
I was going to ask, have you had anybody rescind an offer because a candidate took too long?
We've had people rescind an offer because a candidate verbally expressed more interest in another company. And so that's something else I would say. Yes. And so that's something else I would say is, if you feel that way, work with your recruiter, communicate a lot of this to your recruiter. If you're working with one, they're going to be able to finesse that conversation for you in a really appropriate fashion. But I would say, kind of going back to the feet dragging thing, try to have an answer back to that company, yes or no, within 48 hours. You start dragging that out, they start looking at backup options.
Right.
That's just the market that we're in. They have to protect themselves just as much, to kind of keep their projects rolling, if you will.
I've always said that is kind of like asking someone to the prom, and that person says, "Sure, I'll go with you," but I might have somebody else that's more attractive want to take me to the prom. So let me wait and see. That just doesn't work, especially when it comes down to paying your rent and things like that. We've got a lot of questions that are coming in. So, Lindsey, somebody asked, how much weight is put on job titles? I'm trying to change careers and my skill transfer and my skill transferred, but my title doesn't match.
So this is a really interesting question. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
No, please go.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was actually working, I had this conversation with someone last week about titles, and I think that they are, I won't say irrelevant, but I think they are, it depends on what size the company is. And because you could go and be a senior director at a small firm, and then you go to a big company and maybe your title's manager, but you have more responsibilities.
Right.
So I think that with titles, the work and the responsibility is probably more important when it comes to looking at that. And then from there, let's say that you took a job. Let's go back to engineering for a second. Say that you're a principal engineer at a company, and then the company that you're at is a little bit smaller, and then you take a role as a senior engineer at the next company. And then from there, you want to change jobs, and you get the question asked about, well, why did you take a title change from a principal to a senior? Right. Just have a story to tell. I don't see a lot of people getting that question these days, but there's always a chance that somebody just wants to understand your background a little bit. They're not going to rule you out for that by any means. But having that story to tell of, well, I was a principal engineer here, but the team size that I was working on was this size, and this is the type of projects we were working on. But I took this role as a senior engineer, and here's how my responsibilities changed. It was actually more. So just having a story to tell, I think, is so important, more important than worrying about, kind of title change and that promotion.
I think that's a great point, and I will also, and I'll chime in there. I think that when you're looking at, especially technology titles are synonymous with a lot of different things. I mean, you could have someone be a web developer that calls themselves a software engineer, that calls themselves a software developer, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that people try to cram everything that they've ever done on a couple of pages in a resume or a page and a half. But that's a whole other story. But yeah, the titles, especially in technology, but again, to your point, having a story as to why, and going from a large multi-billion-dollar corporation that has a structure to a startup where there's 5 of you. My dad always said, "I don't care what you call me, just pay me." And you know what I mean? Sometimes titles don't matter. So,
Yeah.
here's another question. What skills should we work on if we're looking for a role as a developer, business analyst, or systems analyst? Let's kind of developer and BA and systems analyst are all kind of three different things. So let's look at probably the most, what skills specifically for a business analyst, Lindsey?
Business analyst, I think that the main skill here is really being able to communication, organization,
Absolutely.
understanding tools that are used to kind of keep up with projects. I know that's kind of
Sure.
not on the project management side,
Sure,
but understanding that. One thing I will say that is actually making business analysts stand out more these days, and I think it always kind of has, but what we're getting a lot of requests for right now is understanding the SDLC thoroughly. You don't
Right.
have to be a developer, but understanding that software development lifecycle and being able to
Sure.
communicate with developers from a technical standpoint.
Yep.
And sometimes even having some technical skills, we get a lot of requests for business analysts that they would really like for them to have SQL. So if you have, some sort of technical aptitude or hands-on experience, that's really helpful too from a business analyst standpoint.
Yep. I've always said a good business analyst, and we were talking about titles. I've always called a business analyst like a nerd translator. If you can sit in the middle of a bunch of developers and understand what they're saying, but also sit with our parents and our parents describe how they want a website built and translate what they said into developer talk, I think that's so important. So listening and understanding, like you said, the SDLC there is
one thing I will add to the business analyst. I know there's a lot when it comes to technical BAs, especially. There's a lot of emphasis put on that technical piece, but you have to remember that yes, you are kind of the person that's in the middle. So being able to having that business acumen and being able to sit down with an external customer, because not typically, but a lot of the times, BAs are really involved in a product that companies are selling, and so being able to sit down with an external customer and understanding what they want and having kind of that real business acumen, that is just as critical as having that technical piece too, because you truly are right in the middle of that, like you were saying.
Yep. We've got a few more questions coming in. I know that we're at 23 minutes, so let me ask this one more. Somebody said, "What's the best way to stand out when you're a boot camp grad?"
This is a great question. I actually get this a lot. I think the best way to stand out as a boot camp grad is one, having your projects available. GitHub is your best friend. If you can get some stuff in that tool to have on your and having that link on your resume or sending it to your recruiter.
Are your clients asking for GitHub information?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Another thing from a boot camp standpoint, I know a lot of the boot camps in Nashville actually have a lot of practitioners come in and speak to those boot camps and kind of try to make connections with folks who are kind of already in the field. If you can find a mentor, a technical mentor that kind of has your back and can be a reference for you, a personal reference for you, or help you even outside of that boot camp, that goes a long way too, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Next question. This says, because of a career gap in software development, my resume keeps on getting rejected. What's the solution when you have a career gap? So it may be you took a sabbatical, you had children, you cared for a family member or whatever. How do you accommodate for that gap, and what story? Number one, I think as recruiters we understand that. I understand it for sure, and I know that you understand it. But how do you? I'm going to put it this way. I'm your candidate, Lindsey, and I've had a 2-year gap because I wanted to travel the world. Now I'm ready to go. How do you explain that to your client?
Yeah. So for backing up a little bit, first, what I would say to that is if you're having trouble with a career gap and you're just submitting your resume to job postings through whatever form you're doing that and you're not getting any traction, get a recruiter. And I say that because we tell the story for you. I can pick up the phone and I can call my client and go, hey, Susie has a career gap, but let me tell you what she did during that time, right? I can tell that story for you to get you across the finish line or to at least get a conversation. Something else that we can do and that we have done in the past is if it has been a career gap and maybe you changed careers, but want to go back into software development, but you still tinkered on the side or whatever it may be, we have skills assessments that we can provide, that we can give, and then also share with our client to say, yeah, hey, they did take some time off, but they've been tinkering in Python for the last 2 years and they scored really well on this test. I think they're worth your time. Again, I think it goes back to, having somebody that can at least get you in the door to have that conversation. But then once you're in the door and you have the platform to tell your story, you want to make sure that your story aligns and have reasons for why you had that career gap. Maybe that was to travel the world, or maybe you got burnt out because you were working for a company that was working you 70 hours a week. But now you want to go back into it because, hey, you found this new technology that you're really interested in, or whatever the case may be. But I go back to say, tell the story, or have somebody that can kind of go to battle for you to help tell that story.
I'll add to that. Those are all fantastic points. I'll add to that, Lindsey. I think that if you've had that gap, being able to say how you remained fresh during that time. If you took 2 years off to travel the world, maybe you read some coding books or something like that, just something to stay fresh. But I think if you come in warm saying, yeah, I've not done that, but I did study that during my sabbatical or when I was in Egypt with Lindsey, because I know that she's been to Egypt. Lindsey, did you see anybody carrying around any Python books in Egypt?
Yeah, everybody was just reading them, walking around the pyramids. You know.
That's great. That's awesome. Lindsey, thank you so much. We've got, and I know that there were some questions we couldn't get to, but we're a little short on time. If somebody needs to reach out to you, how do they get you?
Yeah, the best way, I would say connect with me on LinkedIn. But if not LinkedIn, you can always reach me via email. And my email is lmorgan@vaco.com. I'd be happy to chat with you about your next career move or anything like that.
Awesome, Lindsey. I think that wraps it up for today's episode of Career Confidential. Lindsey, thanks for joining us. Your email is right there below. Our next episode of Career Confidential. Well, I can't stop doing that. It's so fun to do. We'll be on Thursday, March the 17th, and we're going way up north to our Vaco Atlantic brothers and sisters in Toronto, Ontario. And I'm going to be speaking to Brendan Pond. Brendan, like I said, is out of Toronto. So all of our people north of the border, near the border of Canada will certainly want to tune into that. So thanks for watching, everybody. Lindsey Morgan, thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you. And thank you for sharing all your wealth of knowledge for everybody that was listening today. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.